up, you guys? Today we're starting a little bit early. So if you're watching this later, skip ahead about 13 minutes. In about 13 minutes, we'll be officially live talking about the common pitfalls that people run into when closing your first home. It's going to be more geared towards buyers than for sellers, but we can always talk about sellers too. But it's buyers month, and it's our last live for the buyers month. I believe. What are we talking about next month? What's our next month? I think we're talking about like Airbnbs and second homes. I think. Let me double check that. Yeah, we're doing Airbnbs and second homes. We're going to talk about touch a truck, all that kind of fun stuff. So it's a different topic every month. So always tune in, always bring all your real estate stories, all your real estate questions, and we have some crazy stories this month. So here for just a minute, I'm going to just chat with you guys. I'm going to invite folks to come and join on Facebook, among other places. So if you guys have any questions, now is the time. We've got about 12 minutes to kill because we're ahead of schedule. So let's see. We're gonna open up our YouTube. Can look at our current live. Copy. We're dinging. Does that mean that we're missing things? Not at all. So okay, we're just gonna kind of chill here for about a couple more minutes, guys. So if you're joining this later, in about 9 minutes is when the show is gonna start. For now, we're just hanging out and chit chatting and inviting people to our review, to our show here. Hop back over here. So in the meantime, guys, like I said, if anyone wants to talk about your real estate adventures, what you got going on, any specific questions, it's a good time. We got about 8 minutes to kill. I will get into some story time here in a minute once I get this shared to all the different groups, and we can see if we can get some more people in here. And aside from that, how is everyone doing? So while that does its thing, let's see. Let's open up the chat. Nothing going on yet. So again, we're early. We're not starting for another 5 minutes, give or take. 6 minutes. And when we start, we'll go crazy. We'll have all kinds of cool stuff to talk about. But how are you guys? Who's here? What's going on in your real estate lives? I'd love to hear what is new and exciting and good for everybody. We're just going to share this to a couple different groups real quick. one more minute, post into all the last couple groups here to try and get some folks in. Last but certainly not least, going to send this to a couple of my prospective buyers because they need to see this too. Alright, everything's super laggy. Let's close some tabs. And happy almost 7 o'clock, everyone. So today's show is all about the common pitfalls that we see when buying a home. A little bit about selling too, but mostly for buyers, because this month is all about honoring the first time buyer month. So it's going to be a little echoey here for just 1 second. I want to sound check myself, make sure we sound okay. Yep, sounds are coming through. That is wonderful. All right. So, buying a home is a big process. You're going to have all kinds of things you're going to have to do. And we're going to talk all about that today. All the things that I've seen that has just taken a home buyer experience from good, everything's going happy and going wonderfully, to you might not get the home anymore. But in the meantime, it's been a busy week, a busy week. We had a $1.3 million listing that was it was in our hands. We were going to do it. And they found another agent, and it's broken my heart. They found a new guy, been in the business less than 2 years. They really wanted to give a shot. So kudos to him for all his big accomplishments. We do have that manufactured home still coming up for sale. We still have the crazy nightmare flip house doing all kinds of crazy things. This week for the flip house, we figured out that the solar panels are going to be a huge deal. And we are going to have a little bit of content on that because it's just crazy. And then when it comes to that other listing we're working on, that manufactured home, we're getting photos done on Tuesday. I don't know if we can get it up on Thursday or not. We might be looking at next Thursday for getting it live. But that listing is finally popping up. We got the sink fixed. We got a lot of the odor really knocked back and cleaned up. So it's been a busy time. If you guys haven't yet, check out my YouTube channel and TikToks where I post most of the stuff I've got going on lately. And we're going to keep this overlays, the side, I think it's this side, this overlay up today because I really do want to engage with you guys if anyone has questions, comments, that kind of stuff, because this is the last session of the first time buyers month. Now, it doesn't mean we can't help buyers rest of the year. Doesn't mean we're not going to talk about buyers rest of the year, right? We're just going to be talking about the things that we really worry about for first-time buyers in this session. And next month, we're going to talk more about second homes and vacation homes and Airbnbs, that kind of stuff. So if you are a first-time buyer, or if you're Talia here and looking at getting your first home, this is going to be a really important thing to watch because, again, we're going to be covering all the stuff that can mess you up. So without further ado, let's just jump right in. Let's see, where are we starting with this guy? We're going to start out with... All right. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Brian, the beekeeping realtor, right here in Ventura County, California. And we're just going to go over the pitfalls. So, in real estate, you're going to have a bunch of things that can really mess up your deal, or even worse, if it doesn't mess up your deal, it gets you into a bad house. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about closing costs. Okay. Now, when you hop onto Zillow, let's get some tabs open here, right? How do I do that again? For those who don't know, they recently changed the our platform here we do for our lives. We got a big upgrade. So all my buttons are kind of moved, not like catastrophically moved, but like moved enough for me to struggle a little bit. So let's see. We're going to share screen. We're going to share this guy, which of course didn't work. Why is Zillow not working? Zillow.com. Go. Wonderful. So when we look up a home, it doesn't matter what home it is. We can pull up this guy right here. It's going to show a couple different things for your price. Like one of the big things everyone cares about. Is it coming soon? Of course, I click on the one that doesn't work. So when you click on this guy here, it's going to show a whole bunch of stuff for your payment, your estimated monthly payment, but that's not going to include everything. I think that's bugging out because it's not actually for sale. So one thing that's kind of frustrating about Zillow is that a lot of their stuff's kind of deceptive. That's coming soon too. Coming soon, house for sale. There we go. House for sale. So when we look at the houses for sale, we need to keep in mind that our payments are going to be a little bit more mysterious than what this kind of paints as a picture. Did Zillow change their stuff so it doesn't work anymore? I thought that was going to be fun, but looks like they've changed the platform completely. So you know what? Don't even try Zillow. Zillow doesn't show anything at all anymore. Let's hop over to Realtor.com. That'll still work. Good old Realtor.com is going to be one of my more favorite platforms. Their stuff seems to be more accurate. Not totally accurate, but more accurate. New listings is fine. Everyone's always changing their stuff. Makes it kind of confusing, even for me as an agent playing with it all the time. So when we look at buying a home, you'll notice that the monthly payment is a little bit weird, right? As long as everyone can see this. Everyone see this okay? So let's actually hide this overlay for a minute to make this bigger. So your monthly payment is going to have a lot of parts. There's going to be your principal and interest, which that's going to be the one that doesn't change too much. The property tax, the home insurance, the HOA fees, mortgage insurance, estimated closing costs. A lot of these numbers are estimated. I've done several deals where when we got to the closing table, the final number for some of this stuff was not what was advertised by the lender. Lender always tries to say it's someone else's fault. But you want to make sure that your closing costs, your HOA fees, your home insurance, all that stuff's mostly figured out. Because for a lot of those items, you're going to need that payment at closing, that dollar amount. And for some folks, especially first-time buyers, when they're making that purchase, they need those numbers to be precise. Because if they magically owe an extra $1,000, you might not have it, right? So it's going to be really, really, really important to discuss with your lenders and with your title reps and everyone else what the typical costs are and how much you're going to need. Not just for that 3.5% or that 20% down. There's extra stuff on top. And you need to look at all of your disclosures that you get to make sure there's no discrepancies in what you've been told and what you're actually paying. It's a really big deal because, again, you don't want to get caught out, last day, you're about to buy the house. Oh, by the way, you owe an extra $5,000. Like that can be devastating and mean that you're not going to get the house. Okay. So take a lot of time to understand your closing costs and all of the fees going on. On that same note, you want to make sure that your insurance coverage is really well researched, well discussed, and is going to do everything that you think it's going to do. A really, really common thing, especially out here in Ventura County or Southern California in general, is that the insurance costs right now with fire can blow up a deal. There's a lot of things you have to look at in terms of how close are trees to the property. Are you in a fire zone? A lot of the stuff involving insurance is going to, again, be a really big deal. So before you get to that closing table, or ideally as soon as possible, you need to figure out who will actually insure your part of the world and what their rates look like for the properties you're looking at. And keep in mind, it will change depending on the property, depending on if it's in a fire zone or not. But looking at your insurance and your insurance coverage is going to be a huge deal. Okay. Now, let's talk about last minute financing issues. Again, another super, super common problem. Um, when you get pre approved, they're looking at your credit as a snapshot at that exact moment in time. They're not looking at your credit over the last 30 years or whatever, right? They're looking at it right now. They're looking at your debt to income. They're looking at your general's ability to buy at that exact moment. From the minute that you open escrow to the minute that you close, you need to make sure that you don't change anything. Don't take out any new credit cards. Don't buy a new car. Don't change your debt balance. Okay. So, like things I've seen a lot, people are excited. They now have a garage. They're going to buy a new car to put in that garage. And suddenly they don't qualify for the loan. Again, really excited and they bought furniture and now they don't qualify for the loan. What else have I seen? Someone bought a commercial sewing machine. That's something that's going to just permanently scar me. The lender, when they talked to the clients, were like, "Can I buy a sewing machine?" And they went, "Yeah, go ahead, buy your sewing machine." It was a $5,000 sewing machine. And they put it on their credit card and they blew out their budget. Something else that's kind of more nuanced, that's kind of a big deal still, is you don't want to open or close any lines of credit. You don't want to actually open up that credit card at the hardware store when you go through. It's a bad idea. It messes up your credit score. So you want to try to keep all of your finances completely the same from the minute that you open up, like from the minute you get your pre-approval to the minute that you close. You want to keep it consistent the whole time. On that same note, don't make any big changes in your employment. Don't quit your job. Don't get fired. Don't do anything to change your financial situation. Back when the pandemic happened, I had a client buying at the time my biggest property ever, $500,000 up in Washington, which was a big house back then up there. It was a really, really nice home. And it was with a lady that was a nurse. And I thought the deal was an absolute slam dunk, especially when COVID was starting, because who's going to fire nurses as COVID starts? But about 3 days before closing, they switched her employment. They changed her from a W-2 to a 1099. And as a 1099, you usually need 2 years of employment history to qualify. So changing her employment actually made it so she no longer qualified for the home. Despite her income actually going up, she could not buy the home anymore. So make sure that you're keeping all of your finances consistent. Once you close, do whatever you want to do. But until you close, keep it consistent. Don't change anything, okay? Another really, really common issue that we see in terms of specifically closing is the final walkthrough and the inspections, okay? Now, during your escrow period, you usually have a time period of however low you want it to be, but the standard is 17 days. For most people, we're seeing like 1 week, 10 days on escrows right now. For that 1 week to 10 days, you can inspect the property to your heart's content. Look at everything you want to look at. Okay, we're talking the general inspection, of course, the termite inspection, of course, but you're also looking at the septic and the well and the sewer scope, the roof. I mean, literally anything you want to look at, asbestos, lead paint, I don't care. Check thoroughly during that time, okay? And then what'll happen is you'll have a final walkthrough. Now, the final walkthrough is, again, another really big thing that a lot of people skip, okay? So we're just going to take 1 second here and open this back up. We don't need to look at Zillow anymore, Realtor.com anymore. We're going to close that up. So when it comes to the final walkthrough is a big deal. This is your chance to verify the condition of the property, make sure it still looks good, still feels good, nothing super messed up has happened. And it's also going to be your opportunity to make sure that whatever you ask them to fix is still fixed. So, a lot of the time people will mess stuff up when they're moving out, or they will change things as they're moving out. So you need to come to your final walkthrough. It's probably the most important day of the entire escrow, okay? It's your last chance to say, whoa, 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 stuff isn't right. If you don't do it, weird things happen. For example, I've had people remove appliances they weren't supposed to remove, or replace appliances they weren't supposed to remove. I had one deal where someone had a very expensive fridge. It was a Viking. I don't remember how much the fridge was. I think it was like $20,000. And they pulled the fridge out and they replaced it with a really cheap, like $500 fridge. I've seen times where the people moving out have accidentally scraped the floors really badly, or accidentally put holes in the wall, or maybe on the final walkthrough, the sellers aren't even out yet. They're still there. They've not even started moving. So your final walkthrough is your verification of the property. It's your chance to take a look and say, hey, the property is exactly how I wanted. All the stuff we agreed on is done. Let's close the deal. If they haven't done things they're supposed to do, or if things don't look the way they're supposed to look, don't close the deal. Draw it out. Wait until they do what they're supposed to do. Okay. The final walkthrough is a huge, huge, huge deal. Another thing that we see all the time that messes up closing, legal and document errors. Okay. Make sure that you read and look over all of your documents really carefully. And if you need a lawyer or if you need a legal advisor, bring them in. Look at everything. Okay. So when we're talking document errors, it kind of ties back into one of the first things on closing costs. I'll never forget this one deal. It went so weird. The client's mother was a lender, but the client's mother didn't want to do the loan herself. She wasn't allowed to because of conflict of interest. So she had her mother's company still do the loan. I called the lender and I said, hey, what are we doing? And they said, we need this much for closing costs. We need this much for this much for this. I wrote it all on the paper. When it came time to close, the client said that I messed up and put the wrong numbers on the contract. I did exactly what the lender said. The buyer signed off on everything. I read through all of it with her before we got to the closing table. So everything was reviewed by multiple people, but she didn't catch the error that was going on either. So, with all of these documents, it's so important that you read everything. Make sure that the fridge that you want is checked off. Make sure that all the numbers say all the things that you want. Make sure the dates say everything that you want to say. Make sure that you read all of that fine print. And I know it's a lot, but it's a big deal. You only have to do this once every, 7 to 30 years, however long it's going to be. Make sure that you have all the documents really well read, really well understood, and make sure you're getting advice from anyone that you need to make sure that all the terms are super, super clear. Now, for smooth closing, you're going to need a couple things. Okay, you need to get all your documents ready in advance. You're going to need ID, proof of insurance, certified funds. There's going to be a list of stuff that you need, and you're going to need to communicate with your lender, the title rep, the escrow company, and everyone in between on all the stuff you need for the smooth closing day, and also for any days right before or after. If you can, I would recommend getting a little packet on your computer that has all of your documents in there, from all the stuff the lender needs, all the stuff your realtor needs, every document possible. Get in a little file folder and just save it somewhere so you got access to it. And also make a little packet in real life that you can use for all of your final signings, all the things that you got to go to where people will need copies of all of those important documents. Okay, but get them all ready as early as you can. Nothing's worse than being partway through, escrow, and now all of a sudden you need to get your ID for closing and you can't find it. Okay, so make sure you got all your stuff all together in a super easy way to find, and you keep it in a place that's super easy to access throughout the whole escrow. You really, really badly need to communicate with your realtor and your lender and anyone else, but mostly your realtor and lender. When you're going through escrow, you're going to need to be in communication with really your realtor and your lender, and they need to be in communication with each other as well. There's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of hiccups, a lot of things that happen. Okay. And every single time I open an escrow, every single time I have a deal, I'm looking for at least one thing that's going to pop up that's going to be a really big deal and potential deal breaker. And when that thing pops up, it's going to be critical that you're in touch with everyone and know exactly what's going on. For example, one of my biggest nightmares, if you're watching out there, Scott, I love you. Easiest deal I've ever done in my life with Scott. We were buying a $1.3 million house. I think it was 1.3. and it was so smooth and so great, but the lender like disappeared. We couldn't get a hold of him. Our closing day came, and the funds weren't recorded. No, he never sent the money, and we couldn't get the guy on the phone. Couldn't get him on the phone at all. He disappeared. I had to go into the bank office for um, a very specific bank, a very large bank, and I had to sit in their office and wait until they begrudgingly got a hold of this guy and sent over the money. So, making sure that your lender and your realtor and everyone's in communication is going to be a huge deal for any little hiccups that happen. Communication to me is probably the number one thing in a real estate transaction. I know that everyone wants a good rate, but if they don't communicate and don't close, who cares what the rate is? Okay. So, really, really strong communication with all of the people involved is going to be so, so, so big. Okay. Can't stress it enough. You also want to set realistic closing date expectations. Okay. Now, most deals can be pretty easily closed in 30 days. Some deals, if you really scoot, really push stuff through, you can close in as little as 2 weeks. But your closing date's going to change. Just because you say it's going to be in 30 days, that doesn't mean it's in 30 days. You might have things that happen. Again, this is going to be part of the communication. For example, a deal I'm doing right now is supposed to close in 1 week. We found a whole bunch of problems. We're communicating with everyone. Now we're probably going to close, I'm hoping, end of next week. I'm hoping, fingers crossed. But a lot of the dates are going to change, and everyone has to be in communication and with a reasonable amount of notice and expectation for these things to happen. Because as a buyer, you need to figure out when you're moving. As a seller, you need to figure out when you're getting the heck out the house. So, as things are going on, you want to be in communication and set realistic expectations for when the actual date is going to be, because that 30-day goal is awesome, but it's not often reality, if that makes any sense. So, does anyone have any questions about common pitfalls? These are going to be the biggest things I see time and time again. And if you want to look at other pitfalls for like inspections and other things like that, look at other videos. This is specifically regarding closing, because that's going to be what we're covering this week. And like I said, now is the time to ask questions and engage. The lives are going to be good. We need to do a little bit better job of advertising the new time now that we're at 7 o'clock. But next month is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to be doing the Touch Truck event, which we're going to try to stream live. I hope we can stream it live and do it well. It's going to be really cool. And then we're also going to be doing a lot of other events this month. It's going to be a big month. We have a lot of new escrows and new videos, new things coming up that's going to keep us very busy and have a lot of content here on the channel. So if you have any questions about buying or selling, you know what to do, guys. Call Castro, and it's a relatively short one because closing is hopefully pretty simple despite all the crazy stories. And if people do show up, we will give a lot more time to these lives because I've got plenty of time to spend as long as folks tune in. So if that's all everyone's got for right now, guys, have a wonderful holiday weekend, and I'll circle back to you guys next week.